cross-component communication in Angular means how we can communicate between components, or how we can pass data or trigger events between components. That's what we are going to see today. By the end of this video, you'll be familiar with how we can achieve cross-component communication, or how we can pass data or trigger events between components. But before continuing to this video, you should be familiar with what is a component, or how we can create a component. If you're not really familiar with, then you can see a video in the comment section. That's my another video on the basics of component, or how we can create a component, or you can refer any other article or videos which explains about component. So that's a prerequisite to continue to this video. Okay, so before jumping into the code, let me explain what we are going to achieve today. So we'll have the root component, that is app component, and the root component will have an array of numbers. That array generates, or the data in the array generates during each second. Basically, we'll push each second to the array, and depends on the number. If the second is even number, then we will pass that data, basically that number, to even number component. If the second is odd number, then we'll pass odd number component, or we'll pass odd number, basically the data, to odd number component, and we'll display that data in each of these component. That's the first part. In the second part, we are going to add two more new components named as start component and stop component. Basically, the execution starts only while clicking a button on start component. On clicking a button, that will trigger an event. So that event will pass along with the sample data with the state start to app component. Then it starts the execution and pass data to one of these components. Likewise, when we say stop, it will trigger an event to app component, then it stops the execution. That is what we are going to achieve today. So now let us jump straight into the code and see how we can achieve that. Okay, now I'm in Visual Studio Code. Let me create a new project first with ng new command, and let us name it as cross component, because that is what we are going to do today. Okay, it's going to install all the packages. Before that, okay, I don't need Angular routing here, because this is just a sample application which demo cross component communication, and the default style sheet would be CSS, though I'm not going to add any styles in specific. Let us go with the default CSS one, and it is installing all the packages, and after this this will be ready to use. So let us wait until all the packages has been installed. Okay, now it has created a project template for us. All the packages has been installed, and let us open the new project which you have created, that is cross component. It is loading up. Okay, now we can see everything is created, and we can see app component, and everything is there. To see it is working, let me do one thing. Let me clear everything from app, this HTML, and let me add a sample text. This is app component. Okay, let's see it works. We can open the terminal, and we can host it with ng serve command. Okay, it is compiling the application. Let us wait until it has been completed. Okay, now the application has been hosted to this local port 4200. Let us open and see. Okay, this is running fine. Now let us create two more new component, EvenNumber Component and OddNumber Component. Let me open a duplicate terminal. and here let us create number component first. Ngc, this is a command to create a new component, even number. Okay, we don't need to add the tests, so because of that I'm going to skip test here. Okay, it will create a even number component. Okay, that has been created here now. Likewise, let me create another component called odd number. We don't need a test here as well. It is creating the second component, and we can see even that is ready. So both components are ready. Now let me do one thing to differentiate between both components. Let me add a color here, style and an inline style. For even number we can give it as blue. Okay, and let me change the text to this is even number component. Okay, likewise in odd number component, let me paste this here, and we can give this color maybe say green, and this is odd number component. Okay, and to check it is loading fine, let me add this in app component. So app, the component name is even number, and the second component name is app odd number, and let me save it. And ng server is still listening for the changes, so let's see. Okay, both has been loaded fine. Okay, that is fine. The next thing we need to do is we need to create an array of numbers, and we should push that array, or we should fill data to that array in each seconds. So let us do that. Let me go to app component ts. Here let me create an array. Let us name it as current seconds, which is of type number array, and initially that would be empty. Then in the constructor we'll set an interval, and that will execute in each second. So let me set an interval. Okay, and that will execute in each second, and we'll push the current second to current seconds array. So I'm telling here during each second or 1000 milliseconds execute this callback function. In the callback function we'll add current second to current seconds array. So let me declare a date variable here, and we'll push current second to this array for the date.get seconds. So it will get the current second and push it to this array. Okay, let me format it. Now we need to see this is working fine or not. So for that let us loop through this array and create a div in each element of the array, like this. Div, have created div here, and ng for loop. Okay, and I need to loop through current seconds array, and let me name this as second, and I need to display something like say current second is basically the second, that is this second. Let me save it, and let's go back, and we can see it is loading in each second. So that is fine. The next thing we need to do is, if the second is odd, say for example this one, then we need to pass this data to odd number component. If the second is even, then we need to pass data to even number component. That's what we need to achieve next. So let us go and do that. Let us do it first for even number component. So let me go to even number component. Here let me declare let me create a property called again say current second. Here it's just a name, and that is again of type number. Okay, now this is just a class property, nothing fancy, but we need to make this property to be bindable from outside, or to pass data from outside and receive that data to this particular property. With this setup we can really achieve that. For that, in Angular we have a directive called input. At input, it's a directive. With this we are telling that, hey, this is a property which should be bindable from the parent component. In our case, the parent component is app.component.html. That is where we have binded app.EvenNumber. So for EvenNumber component, app.component is the parent. So we are indicating Angular, this property should be bindable from outside, basically from the parent component. With this directive we can actually bind the data. Let's see how we can do that. And here in app component, basically this is the even number component which we have added. Now we can say current second, this current second, we can bind it with the property binding current second equal to whatever the current second is. If we add a value to current second, that will actually pass to this property, and when we bind this property to our even component like this, and the current second is say current second. Okay, this is what we want to do, and it is to pass data. So for that, what we can do is, let me move the closing of this div to here, and let me comment this line out for now, because we are not going to use it now, we'll add it later. Okay, now current, because we have a condition, we need to display app even number component only if the second is even. For that, what we can do is, with conditional ng if, we say second, that is basically this second, mod of 2 equal to 0. It means this number is even. Okay, then only show this component. That's what we are indicating or instructing Angular. Okay, then in the current second we have to pass second, basically this second in double quotes. Okay, now everything is fine. It should, if the second is even, then it add this component to the DOM, and it pass the current second to basically to here. This property will bind it with current second, or this property will assign with current second, and will bind that property to this current second here. So everything is fine, so it should work. Let me save everything, and when I load application, it's loading up, and we can see it is adding this part on each second where the number is even. So that's fine, and let me get rid of this part. Basically I don't need this now. Let me save it again, and it is loading up, and here we can see it is generating app even component only if the second is an even number, and we need to achieve the same for odd number component as well. So let us do that. So let me uncomment this first. Let me uncomment let's control KU and have uncommented this. We need to add a property, again current second, or it can be any name, but we should bind the same name here. So let me go to OddNumber component, and let us declare again a variable. Let us give a different name, just to show we have to bind the same name. Current odd second, maybe that's just a name that is of type number. Okay, again we have to decorate it with at input directive to indicate Angular that this should be bindable from outside. Okay, that is fine. Let me save it and let me bind this to the HTML. This is odd component, and current second is bind with this property. Okay, and in app component HTML we need the same logic here. Okay, let me type it down. That is ng if second not equal to 0, then only we need to generate, or we need to add one star here. We need to add this component to the DOM. Okay, and the new current odd second, that's a property, and we have to pass second, that is basically this second. Okay, and it should work ideally because we have binded the property here, and we have current odd second. Is that the same property? Yeah, current odd second, and we have binded current odd second, so it should work fine. So let me save everything, and when I see the application again, it's working fine. Basically we are passing data from app component to each of these components based on a condition. So that's how we can input something or pass a data to another component. What input means, we are actually receiving data from outside component, from a parent component to this component. So that's the reason of input, because we are inputting data or receiving data. So that's the first part, and next week we can see, or we'll see how to trigger an event from one component to parent component, the other direction. Now we have passed data from parent component to child component. Now next thing we are going to do is how we can trigger an event by passing data from child component to the parent component. Okay, so let's do that now. So first things first, let me create a new component called start component, or simply say start. Okay, and I don't need tests here as well, so I'm going to skip test. It'll create a start component. Okay, there is a typo, that is not skips, it's skip test, true, and it generates a start component. So start component is ready, and here let me add a button. Button type equal to button. Okay, and let's say start. Okay, from here we need to trigger an event to the parent component. Okay, so for that, but before that, let me add this component, start component, to the root, to the parent component, to see it is working. Here the component name is app-start, and when loading up, okay, it is still not there. Let us see why. In start component we have the button, and let me check the component name, is that correct? Let me go to the start component, and that is correct. Let me add once again here. Let me save everything. Okay, everything has been saved. Okay, now we can see the start button. Okay, probably some files might not have been saved, that's the reason. Now we can see the start component here. Now, as I told, we have to trigger an event outside. We have to trigger an event. Okay, not binding a property or anything. We need to trigger an event to outside. For that, let me go to start component TS. Here we can again create another property. Okay, let's call it property now, but that'll change in some time. Let's say on start here we are going to make it as an event. So now this is not a property, this is an event. We need to emit an event. So that's an event emitter, and that event emitter that should be from here, Angular core, not from protractor. It should be from Angular core. So let me delete this one. So event emitter, and in our case, say we need to pass a string because we are going to pass a text called start. That's a state. Okay, so we need to, the type of the text we need to pass is a text or a string. Now when I click the button, I should emit this event to outside. It basically means to parent component, and the parent component will be listening to the event. So when one of the child component emit an event, it will receive the event. So that's what I want to do. So before that, let me do one thing. I need to add a click event to the start component. So let me do one thing here. That's how we say click in Angular. And while clicking, say on start button click. That's just a name. Okay. Let me create a method in start component named clicked. Okay, here we need to trigger an event or emit the event which we have created. So for that, we should say this dot on start, that's the event emitter. Okay, dot emit, we need to emit, and the data we need to pass here is string because that's what we have mentioned here. While emitting the event, the data or the type of the data I should pass is string. So we should pass a string here. So I would say that as start. Okay, to indicate I have clicked start button. Let me format it. Okay, and now everything is ready, but we don't have anything which receives this event. Basically the parent is listening for this event on start. So let me do one thing. Let me copy this on start, go to the app component, and in app start, this is where it is receiving the event. Okay, so when this event triggered, it identifies that event on start, and what I need to do is to call a function here. Okay, here I'll say on start clicked. And I should receive the data which I have passed. I can do it with event. Okay, so with this event, this is a special parameter. You can refer on what event is. Basically it will get the data which I have passed. Okay, in this case. So I need to create a function on start clicked in app component because this is in the scope of app component. So I need to create here in under app component TS. I'm going to create a function on start clicked. There I'll receive state of that one, that is of string. That's something we have already passing from start component, that's of type string. Okay, and when I start, now we have to move this part because we don't need it anymore in the constructor, because we are going to add data to this array only somebody clicking the button. Okay, and say in the div I need to show the state, the current state. No, it clicks start or stop. I'm already passing it here, but let me declare a variable here. Let me name it as current state, which is of type string, and here let me assign it to this dot state, sorry, current state equal to state. Okay, and I need to bind this to somewhere here, maybe beneath this one. Let me add a paragraph and simply bind to current state. So that should show the current state. Did I click start or stop? Okay, let me coming back to app component here. Okay, now everything is fine. Okay, when I click on the start button, basically this button, it will trigger on start button clicked. On start button clicked is under start component dot ts. Okay, here, and here we are emitting an event, and that event is on start. In the parent, this element is listening for that event, and when it receives, it will call on start clicked with the data we are passing. And here in the app component ts, we have that method, and it starts execution, and it will get everything. So let's see, is it working, and fingers crossed, hopefully it should work. Okay, let me save it, and it is loading up. Okay, now we can see it is a node creating on its own each second. Now let me click on start. Okay, it didn't work. There is something wrong. So let us investigate what is wrong here. Let me back to the code, and here when we come back to the start component ts, here we are missing an important thing. If you remember, while receiving data, we have added a directive which is input at input, but here to indicate the parent component, this is an event, or we are emitting an event and receive that or listen to that event, we need to decorate it, or we need to add the directive output. Okay, that's again from Angular core. Okay, so we have added that output event. Now the parent is aware about this event, and it will listen for that event, and once the event occurs, it should trigger it. Okay, let me save it again, and hopefully it will work this time. Let it load. Let me click on start. Okay, now we can see it has started, and it has started the execution event. Okay, that's how we can pass an event with the data, because we have passed the data here from the child to the parent. Okay, now let us do the other one, which is stop button, and pass an event from stop component to the parent. Let me create the next component ngGC, that is stop. We don't need test here as well. It is generating the component, and we can see stop component is ready. So exactly the same steps. We need to add another button here, which is of type button and is stop. Okay, so we need to create an event here, or we need to call a function while clicking the button, and while clicking it, I would say on stop. Okay, here is start button clicked. Let me copy this, and on stop button clicked. Okay, let me create a function in stop component ts, So here stop button click. So on clicking this button I need to trigger an event. Okay, so again here let us create another event, and don't miss output directive this time. And the event name is let us give the same name, I mean the same format, on start here, which is on stop. Okay, that is an event emitter. Here we don't need to pass any data because we are just stopping it. So we can give void because we are not passing the data. Or if you want to pass data, then we can make it a string here, because okay, let's show the current state event. It is stopped. For that, let us pass a string. Okay, and on stop button clicked, I need to emit this with the state stop. If you don't have anything to pass, then that will be empty, because now you can see the type is string. Okay, but if you make it void, then you don't need to pass anything. So as that's a string, let us pass stop. That's a state. Okay, let me format it once. And now we have to add this. Okay, first of all we need to add app stop as well here. Okay, and it should listen for stop event. Okay, and when it is stopped, then we have to clear the array. Okay, and we have to show the state to stop. And for that, again, let us create another event on stop clicked. Again, we are receiving the data here. Okay, and that's it. Now let us go and create this function in app component ts. So let me go to app component ts here. Okay, again we are receiving the state here, which is of type string. And when this occurs, I have to clear the array. Basically, this dot current seconds to empty. Also, this dot current state would be the state. That's a new state which we are passing. Okay, that's it. Let me save everything and open it again. It's not loading up. Let me save it. Okay, it's not listening, it looks like. Let me go. No, it's listening. Okay, we got some error. That is on stop event emitter. Let us go there. Okay, which is of type string. Okay, the thing is, as I told, this event emitter should be from Angular core, not from protractor, because my ID is adding automatically importing from protractor. So that should be from event emitter. Sorry, from Angular core. Let me save that again. Now it is building up and compiled successfully. So let us go back here. Let me start it. We can see the state is start now, and it started executing. And let me stop it. Now that this is stop, and still this is executing because we are not ending the timer. So let us end the timer. For that, let me go to app component again. So here on stop clicked, I should clear the interval. So for that, let me create a variable because I need that variable to be assigned with the output of set interval. And let me simply name it as interval, and that can be of type any. Okay. And while setting the interval, let me say this dot interval equal to set interval. Okay, and here while stopping I should clear that interval, so it's again the JavaScript function clear interval, and the handler should be this dot interval because that's a reference to this interval. Okay. Okay, and everything is fine. Now it should clear the interval, clear the array, and it should stop the execution, and it should show the state which is stop, or precisely let us name it as stopped maybe instead of stop. Okay, this is saved, and let me save everything. Okay, now everything is fine. It is loading the application, started. Okay, and it is populating everything, running fine. And let me stop it. So it stopped, cleared everything, emptied the array, and stopped the execution. So now it's working all expected. So we have achieved this part, passing data from parent to child, and here from child to parent with an event, and again from parent to child, basically from child to parent and parent to child. So we have achieved both of that part, and this is how we can communicate between components, or how we can achieve cross-component communication in Angular. And if you have any doubt, you can feel free to add in the comment section. And if you like this video, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe my channel, so that you'll get further updation, or whenever I add new video, you'll get the indication. So thank you very much for watching this.